So yeah, the pentagram just kind of upgrades your shots, makes them do more damage. I was kind of testing to see if it actually dropped your range too, but I don't think it did. I think the actual like blood type shots already do that. So normally, you know, the tiers, especially with the increased range, would go across the screen, but now they kind of drop off about a little bit over halfway, I think. Again, the second floor, that's not really too difficult, it just kind of adds more of the same that we've already taught. Adds a few different types to kind of up the difficulty, but other than that, nothing too challenging. You'll also notice that the lower levels tend to toss in like early level bosses as little mini bosses or mid-point bosses. A little bit weaker hit points, but they still do the same thing they did before, and they can still do some damage if you don't figure out the pattern or get stuck on things. This particular boss, however, not really any challenge at all. And we have to deal with this big brain thing that kind of does the same sort of like bouncing splash 8-way that Monster 2 did. Then when you kill it, it splits into these two smaller brainy creatures that kind of leave damage trails around. Again, nothing that's too difficult without paying attention to the area. Ugh, I kind of hate this layout for these guys. And you notice the ones with the different mask styles and the crying faces on the back actually move a lot faster when they lunge across the screen at people. They can be very much pain in the ass. And again, like I said, it kind of just slows everything down. So at this point I just say, screw it, you know what? I can clear out a few more rooms and get this recharged for the boss, so I'll just clear it the easy way. So I'm carrying that full health pill around for a while, and I think it's just that wasn't an intentional thing. I wanted to hang on to it until I could find something that would be useful, but I just didn't really find a lot that helped out. The Dead Sea Scrolls, I believe, just kind of give you a random card whenever it fills up, which again can be pretty useful, but I didn't really have any use for that item in particular. I mean, if you were to find it early on in the floor, you could kind of come back to it and carry it around, use it a few times, and drop a few beneficial cards around. But again, didn't really want to use it at the time. You can see the Anarchist Cookbook just kind of fills with bombs, which can help you clear out rules, real stuffed up, enemies, rooms full of enemies. But it doesn't really have any terribly practical use outside of that. I guess you could probably use it in sort of the same way that some of the other items for bosses go. Just do a one-time boost of damage. But like I said, I still like the invincibility period with the unicorn horn, so can't justify switching out. Maybe in another video set I'll try something a little bit more difficult, maybe. I just kind of wanted the victory, so I didn't want to risk changing things up and making it harder on myself. Why fix what's not broken? I do actually kind of like these rooms the best, the ones where it's kind of that mix of like 3 or 4 different types of enemies instead of just 1 or 2 types of enemies. I think it gives you a lot more to deal with, and it makes it kind of more difficult to kind of sort out, because you need to worry about which ones to deal with first, not just you know, identify the worst guy and take care of him, but pick out which ones, you know, the quickest to deal with, or which one could be the most hassle, and get rid of them first, you know. This particular layout right here actually kind of makes these guys pretty easy, except when they get around behind you. But being able to kind of kite around that center pit makes them almost sadly easy. And these screeching fetus type creatures again are not really too much of a challenge. Again, sometimes enemy types really aren't very difficult at all until the terrain gets in the way, and then they can be more challenging. Treasure. Not too shabby. It's always kind of a nice benefit to just kind of, you know, clear out a room and end up getting something out of it. You don't always expect to get anything to drop at the end of a difficult room. But when it does, hey, makes all that work. Wow. I think I was getting a little angry with myself because I was getting impatient and trying to deal with those guys. Like I said, they're usually very easy because you can just trigger the laser and get out of the way, but I was just being stupid about it. Now there's little pustules there on the ground. You want to make sure you take care of those guys really quickly because they start shooting clusters of shots at you, and you know these guys take more than, you know, one volley of shots to get rid of. So, like I said, you can just kite them around pretty easy. Dealing with the things in the center is probably biggest priority there. I thought I'd just check out the shop to see what was in there. I kind of wanted to pick up that mushroom, 'cause most of the mushrooms have some sort of like shot type bonus to, you know, reach or damage or whatnot. I probably should have showed that off, and I thought about it. I was like, oh, well, now the hole's closed. I can't go pick it up again and just show it off. Yeep, Bob's Rotten Head thing. It's just one of those like arcing green shots that kind of explodes. It's sort of like throwing a poisoning bomb at enemies. I pick up heart because I'm a little low, and I'm like, well, better to spend that money. No arcade in this floor, so better to spend the money and come out ahead rather than take the risk. Yeah, I'm a little weary today. Again, this took like about almost 2 hours to actually play through, and then I had to verify the video just to make sure. The mom fight this particular version of the mom fight is actually kind of a pain, just because of it can be difficult because you're kind of focused on the enemies that come out in these particular doors. And it's very important to kind of take care of the enemies that spit out first, rather than to try to just deal damage to her. The thing that you have to watch out for is not to get focused on the enemies for too long, however, because then you'll get stepped on if you don't watch out. So you you have to keep a ever vigilant eye for the large shadow that might try to step on you. Other than that, once you kind of learn the pattern, it's not too difficult to fight. Especially if you can actually do damage to the other enemies for you. Oh, wooden spoon. This is what I needed. More speed. I'm already ridiculously fast. I was kind of dreading picking it up, but I guess in the end it kind of still paid off. So now we enter the womb. The womb has a few new enemy types. Most of them are kind of a pain, but if you're doing pretty well up to this point, you probably won't have too much of a problem with the womb. There's only maybe a few really challenging enemy types in here. And again, it kind of really depends on the layouts of the rooms. Sometimes it's the layouts that do more of the damage than the enemy type themselves. And it becomes kind of a challenge trying to sneak in and grab items around the, spiky regions when you're at, like, full speed. Slowdown, it usually creeps up a lot when you have enemies that move a lot, or like their animation moves a lot, and they fire a lot of shots at the same time. So this room in particular kind of just seemed to bog the game down, even when the frame rate of the video didn't change too much. Yeah, so the womb continues the tradition. You have a lot more mini-boss type areas in the womb than you do in any of the other floors. In fact, I think like half the rooms in the room 2 end up being like mini-boss rooms, or rooms with these sorts of enemies in them that have the health bars. Again, most of them aren't difficult, and by this time you've hopefully picked up some, damage upgrades or some health upgrades, and you're not gonna do something stupid like I did. I'm gonna chalk up some of it to being late night. I mean, we're talking, playing a game at 1 or 2 in the morning. At this point, I just didn't want to ruin it, so I popped the pill, get myself back up to full health. Kind of was, hoping that I would get some more health capacity at some point before this. It kind of felt like 4 hearts was just a bit low for this point, but I had to make do. I mean, there's sometimes where you'll have games where almost every boss will drop a HP up, and you'll have, 6 or 7 hearts even going into this point in the game. And other times you'll just get a lot of junk, and you might be lucky to get this far. So this one enemy type here, the kind of mirrored you, is really difficult to deal with when you have other types in the room. The easiest thing to do is kind of leave it for last and catch it on a bomb like that. If you have other shot types, I believe you can kind of move it in and trap still get it to run into bullets, but it's just easier to do the bomb method. And see, this actual combination of enemies actually kind of gonna make things difficult, because if you don't deal with the brains, they're taking up your valuable kiting space and making the other enemies only much more difficult to deal with. I'm not sure about these like parasite guys. They don't really seem to do a lot other than move towards you and occasionally randomly teleport. Not really as threatening as I thought they'd be. More things trapped behind spikes. Curse you, game, for ruining my gambling addiction. At this point, it kind of becomes much more of a risk-reward management, and if you don't have any way to regain your hearts back easily, you kind of look towards things like those spikes as a wall. You know, you might as well consider not, or you might as well not consider anything beyond those spikes as reachable unless you've got an item to, clear the spikes without taking damage. It's just not worth the damage taken most of the time. I did hit that thing just because I was kind of confused as to why there was a key block generated in the corner. Thought maybe something might be hidden under it, but nope. And it's not like I didn't have I have a lot of keys to deal with it, so. Hey, a beggar. Now, beggars can actually turn out to be very valuable. And I believe I actually do end up taking damage to take advantage of it, as opposed to the only things you can, you can generally get some pills out of the slot machines now and then, but really the big payoff for slot machines is just the dollar, which 99 coins, but it's not really terribly useful when you're down here, when there's no shop or arcade to really take advantage of. Think of these guys kind of like those skull-headed monsters from earlier, except they kind of move around. The red ones, you can still kind of do damage to them whenever, but they are constantly on the move. They also enjoy shooting at you when you're not ready to shoot back, so. At this point I kind of had cleared out everything except for that combat room over there. And I had a heart here, so I was like, well, I might as well try it. I totally forgot that it takes your faith hearts first before your... And that wasn't actually too bad at all. Paid off the guy and got an extra heart capacity. Not too bad. 5 is a decent number. I mean, of course I would love to have more, but I can live with 5. I think I briefly considered going up to the combat arena, but yeah, you can actually blow up the slot machine and get some items out of it, but again, not always the best option. I kind of just thought I'd try it and see what happened. wasn't like I really needed any of the slot machine payouts. I mean, a pill would have been good, but I'm not gonna risk the attempts.